There is a specific kind of silence that haunts a mother. It isn't the peaceful silence of a sleeping house or the quiet of a library. It is a heavy, suffocating silence that smells like danger. It's the silence of a nursery where a baby is sleeping too deeply, too often, and for too long. For 3 weeks I lived in that silence. I let it wrap its cold fingers around my throat. I told myself I was paranoid. I told myself I was just an exhausted, anxious, first-time mother adjusting to a grueling work schedule. But deep down, in the primal part of my brain that predates logic, I knew. I knew that something in my house was hunting my son. I just never imagined that the predator was the man sleeping in my bed. My name is Dr. Sarah Bennett. I am a trauma surgeon at one of the busiest hospitals in Chicago. My life is defined by high stakes, split-second decisions, and the constant pressure to save lives. But the life I couldn't save, the life that was slowly fading right in front of my eyes, was that of my 6-month-old son, Lucas. To the outside world, my life was perfect. It was the kind of life people envy on Instagram. I had the prestigious career, the beautiful Victorian home in the suburbs, and most importantly, I had Ryan. Ryan. Just saying his name now leaves a bitter taste of ash in my mouth. But back then, Ryan was the golden husband. He was the man who put his graphic design career on hold to become a stay-at-home dad so I could pursue my dream of becoming chief of surgery. He was the man who posted selfies with Lucas strapped to his chest, captioned, "My little wingman." He was the man my friends fawned over at dinner parties. "You are so lucky, Sarah," they would whisper, swirling their wine. "Most guys won't even change a diaper. Ryan does everything. He's father of the year." I believed them. I felt guilty for being the breadwinner. I felt guilty for leaving the house at 6 a.m. while Ryan was warming up bottles. I felt like I owed him everything. And he knew it. He fed on that guilt like a parasite. The nightmare began subtly, about 2 weeks after I returned to work from maternity leave. We had hired a part-time nanny, Mrs. Higgins, to come in for 4 hours a day to give Ryan a break. Mrs. Higgins was a sweet grandmotherly woman with thick glasses and a bag full of knitting. She seemed harmless, but coincidentally, that's when Lucas changed. My vibrant, giggly, bright-eyed baby boy started to fade. It wasn't a sudden fever or a rash. It was a slow, creeping lethargy. He stopped reaching for his toys. His babbling, which used to fill the house, turned into a low, whimpering drone. He started sleeping 12, 14, sometimes 18 hours a day. And when he was awake, he wasn't really there. His eyes were glassy, unfocused. He looked like a little drunk person, his head lolling on his shoulders. I took him to the pediatrician. Dr. Aris checked his vitals. "He's gaining weight, Sarah," Dr. Aris said, looking at the chart. "No fever. Lungs are clear. It's probably just a growth spurt. Babies sleep a lot when they grow. Or maybe it's a low-grade viral bug. Give it time." I wanted to believe him, but the surgeon in me, the part of me trained to spot the invisible signs of trauma, wasn't satisfied. I went home and expressed my concerns to Ryan. "He's just so out of it, Ryan," I said one evening, watching Lucas stare blankly at the ceiling fan. "Look at his pupils. They're sluggish." Ryan laughed, a soft, patronizing sound. He walked over and massaged my shoulders. "Babe, you're projecting. You see trauma all day at work, so you're looking for it here. He's fine. He's a chill baby. You should be happy. Most parents would kill for a kid who sleeps this much. You're just stressed because you're back at the hospital. Let me handle the baby. You relax." Gaslighting isn't always shouting. Sometimes it's a warm hand on your shoulder and a soft voice telling you that your reality is a hallucination. He made me feel like a hysterical woman. He made me feel like a bad mother for inventing problems. But the symptoms got worse. Lucas started missing milestones. He couldn't hold his head up anymore. He started refusing the bottle. My suspicion turned toward the only variable that had changed. Mrs. Higgins. I started watching her. I noticed she brought her own thermos of herbal tea every day. I noticed she was always eager for me to leave. Paranoia took root. Was she sedating him? Was she giving him melatonin or whiskey to make her job easier so she could sit on the couch and knit? I had heard horror stories on the news, nannies drugging kids to keep them quiet. I couldn't sleep. I couldn't focus at work. Finally, I made a decision. I didn't tell Ryan. I didn't want him to think I was crazy. I went to a spy shop downtown and bought a hidden camera disguised as a smoke detector. On a Tuesday morning, while Ryan was in the shower and Mrs. Higgins hadn't arrived yet, I climbed onto a chair and installed it on the nursery ceiling. It had a direct feed to an app on my phone. "I'm going to catch her," I whispered to myself, looking at the lens. "And then I'm going to destroy her." I went to work that day with a knot of anxiety in my stomach so tight it felt like a tumor. I had a 6-hour vascular surgery scheduled. A man had been in a motorcycle accident. His leg was shattered. I had to focus. I had to reconstruct veins and arteries. For 6 hours, I didn't look at my phone. I saved a man's leg. I was the hero. But as I scrubbed out, washing the stranger's blood off my hands, my mind rushed back to Lucas. I sat in the locker room, still in my blue scrubs, and opened the app. My hands were shaking. I scrolled back through the timeline. 10 M. Mrs. Higgins arrives. She picks up Lucas. She sings to him. She changes his diaper efficiently. She looks kind. 11:15 a.m. Mrs. Higgins puts Lucas in the crib for his nap and goes downstairs to the kitchen to wash bottles. The nursery is quiet. Lucas is fussing a little, kicking his legs. He looks alert. He looks normal. Then the door handle turns. It's 11:30 m. It's not Mrs. Higgins. It's Ryan. My heart rate slowed down. I felt a wave of relief. Oh, look, he's such a good dad. He's checking on him while the nanny is busy. Ryan walked into the room, but something was wrong. He wasn't doing his Father of the Year walk. He wasn't smiling. His posture was different, rigid, cold. He looked annoyed. He walked over to the crib and looked down at our son with a face devoid of love. It was a face of pure contempt. "Why are you awake?" he whispered. The high-quality microphone on the camera picked it up crystal clear. "You're supposed to be out." I watched, frozen, as Ryan reached into the pocket of his jeans. He pulled out a small blue bottle. I zoomed in on the screen, squinting. It was a bottle of adult Benadryl. Diphenhydramine. A sedative, and next to it, he pulled out a dropper, not a baby dropper, a large 5 ml medicinal dropper. My breath hitched. No, please no. Ryan filled the dropper to the brim. That was a massive dose, an overdose. For a 20-pound infant, that amount of antihistamine isn't just a sedative, it's a neurotoxin. It causes respiratory depression, seizures, coma. I watched my husband, the man I vowed to love forever, reach into the crib. Lucas smiled at him. My baby smiled at his father. Ryan didn't smile back. He used one hand to squeeze Lucas's cheeks, forcing his jaw open. Lucas started to cry, thrashing his little arms. "Stop fighting me," Ryan hissed. "Drink it! Drink it!" He shoved the dropper into the baby's mouth and squeezed the blue liquid down his throat. Lucas choked, coughing, sputtering. Ryan covered Lucas's mouth with his hand to stop him from spitting it out. He held it there for 10 seconds. "There," Ryan said, wiping his hand on his jeans. "Now go back to sleep. If you're awake, your mom might realize she doesn't need me to stay home, and I'm not going back to a cubicle, you little parasite." The phone slipped from my hand and hit the floor. The screen cracked, but the image remained. The world turned sideways. It wasn't the nanny. It was him. It was Munchausen by proxy, but with a twisted motive. He wasn't doing it for medical attention. He was doing it for control. He was poisoning our son to keep him sick, to keep him difficult, to justify his existence as a stay-at-home dad. He needed Lucas to be high maintenance so that I, the successful surgeon, would feel helpless and dependent on him. He was willing to give our son brain damage just to avoid getting a job, just to feed his own ego. I didn't scream. The scream was stuck in my throat, a hard lump of coal. I stood up. I was a trauma surgeon. I knew how to triage. Priority 1, secure the patient, Lucas. Priority 2, neutralize the threat, Ryan. I called 911. This is Dr. Sarah Bennett. I need police and an ambulance at 42 Oak Street immediately. Possible overdose on diphenhydramine? Infant male. The perpetrator is still on the premises. Then I called my brother Mike. Mike is an ex-Marine who lives 10 minutes away. Mike, I said, my voice dead and flat. Go to my house. Ryan is poisoning Lucas. Do not let him leave. If he tries to leave, break his legs. I ran to my car. I drove like a maniac. I ran red lights. I drove on the shoulder. When I pulled into the driveway, the ambulance was just arriving. Mike's truck was already there, parked on the lawn. I burst through the front door. The scene I found was surreal. Ryan was sitting on the sofa, holding a limp, sleeping Lucas. He looked up, confused, seeing Mike standing over him with a baseball bat. Mrs. Higgins was in the corner, crying. "Sarah?" Ryan said, flashing that charming, dimpled smile. "What's going on?" "Mike is acting crazy. Why are the police here?" I walked up to him. I looked at the man I had married, the man I had trusted with my life. "Give me my son," I said. "Babe, he's napping. You'll wake him up." "He's not napping, he's unconscious," I screamed, the sound tearing my throat apart. I snatched Lucas from his arms. His little body was like a rag doll. His skin was cool. His breathing was shallow. Too shallow. "What did you do?" Ryan stood up, trying to look offended. "I didn't do anything. He's just tired." I pulled out my phone. The cracked screen. I pressed play. The audio filled the living room. "And I'm not going back to a cubicle, you little parasite." Ryan's face transformed. The mask fell off. In a split second, the loving father vanished, and the narcissist appeared. His eyes went black with rage. "You spied on me?" he spat. "I'm the one here all day. I'm the one cleaning up his filth while you play God at the hospital. You think you're better than me? You're a terrible mother. You abandoned him." "I worked to feed us," I yelled back. He lunged at me. But he forgot about Mike. My brother didn't use the bat. He tackled Ryan with the force of a freight train. He pinned him to the floor, twisting his arm behind his back until I heard a snap. "You touch her, you touch that kid, and I end you," Mike growled. The police swarmed in. They dragged Ryan out in handcuffs. He was still screaming, blaming me, blaming the baby, blaming everyone but himself. I didn't watch him leave. I was in the back of the ambulance, holding an oxygen mask to Lucas's face. "Stay with me, Lucas. Stay with me, baby," I whispered, holding his tiny hand. We spent 3 days in the ICU. The toxicology report confirmed it. High levels of diphenhydramine, plus traces of melatonin and alcohol. He had been experimenting with cocktails of sedatives. The neurologist told me that if I had waited another week, maybe even another day, the respiratory depression would have stopped his heart in his sleep. It would have looked like SIDS, sudden infant death syndrome. Ryan would have played the grieving father. He would have started a GoFundMe. He would have thrived on the sympathy. Ryan is currently serving a 20-year sentence for aggravated child abuse, poisoning, and attempted murder. During the investigation, they found his search history. How much Benadryl to knock out a 15 lb baby? Symptoms of liver failure in infants? Online poker high stakes. It turns out, he wasn't just lazy. He was a gambling addict. He needed Lucas unconscious so he could play online poker for 8 hours a day without interruption. He had lost $50,000 of our savings. I am a single mother now. It hasn't been easy. The trust is gone. I check every bottle. I taste every meal before I give it to Lucas. Lucas is 2 years old now. He has a slight tremor in his hands, a parting gift from his father's poison, but he is happy. He is alive. I kept the smoke detector camera. I don't use it to spy on the nanny anymore. Mrs. Higgins is still with us. She is family now. I keep it as a reminder that evil doesn't always look like a monster. Sometimes it looks like a handsome man in a plaid shirt, holding a baby, smiling for a selfie. Sometimes the most dangerous place in the world is the one place you feel safest. Trust your gut, even if it breaks your heart. because your intuition is the only thing standing between the people you love and the darkness waiting to take them.